Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 3 of the Spamcast. We're keeping the disaster going, the uh, the fall down a mountain. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. So last episode we had a guest Zofika, and this time I'm alone again. I'm forever alone, I guess. I noticed that nobody sent media recommendations like I suggested last episode, but I guess when you've got 23 views, that's not gonna happen. So I guess I'm just gonna talk about stuff that I watched personally. Um, so I'm gonna try something this episode. I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna talk about right away. I'm just gonna just talk about one thing after one another, and just see how it goes. Maybe next week I'll start talking about it again. I'm experimenting. It's a very experimental avant-garde podcast. It's art, everyone. It's art. So the first piece of media that I wanted to talk about is the one that you probably already see here, because fuck actually editing, I just already put this on. So I'm donning the mystery Spamtano costume right now, because I'm gonna talk about a musical album. I'm really saying a lot of ums. It's really bad. So this album. What the fuck is the disaster? It's the West Coast Pop Art Experimental Band, Part 1, 1967, I think, or something like that. It might be a little weird to talk about an album that literally nobody knows. I'm pretty sure nobody has ever heard of the West Coast Pop Art Experimental Band. That's the worst name you could ever find for your band. If you're thinking of building a band, don't name it like the East Coast normal. Fuck. I give up on this joke. I've given up on jokes. The reason I listened to this album originally was mostly because one of the songs on it was used in the Wes Anderson film Isle of Dogs, which is really good film. I recommend it. And in it, at one point, they use a song, "I Won't Hurt You," which is on this album, and which is honestly probably the best song of the album. And I thought, you know what, I like this song. Maybe it's maybe the whole album is kind of like this. It could be interesting and everything, but yeah, we'll talk about it. The second reason I wanted to sort of listen to it, the whole album instead of just that one song, is sort of like I have a confession to make. I'm kind of I've got a bit of a guilty pleasure for 60s like garage psychedelic, shitty bands for like tiny little tiny dick bands from the 60s who made like one or two albums and that's it. And so I thought, well, maybe with a name like this, it's gonna be a fun little psychedelic trip, whatever. But then I sort of like looked up the Wikipedia, and that's like they've got a really weird like story of how they got about. Like I'm just gonna talk about that story for now. Basically, the band themselves already existed from like I think early to mid 60s, right? And well, they weren't really making any money, because like they were like a band in, I think it was like San Francisco or something like that, and like there were already thousands of bands, and it's like if you've ever listened to Frank Zappa, you know how many bands there were. And basically, so they were struggling. And then come along this guy, whose name is Bob Marley. And of course, when I read the Wikipedia page, I was like, wait a minute, what is Bob Marley doing here? But it's not Bob Marley, it's Bob Marley, who's just a weird fucking guy who basically was really fucking rich. He knew people in the music industry, but was like, I want fucking girls. I want to, to have groupies, because, just because you work in the music industry doesn't mean you have groupies. And he was like, I want groupies. And so he went to that random band, like they were just playing along, and he went like, hey guys, I'm gonna give you all my fucking money, so you can buy like equipments, recording, studio recording time and all. And then I'm in your band, and you let me play like the maracas. Which is what happened. And so they had, a shit ton of money, and a weird like guy who was giving them the money, but was also like playing and sometimes singing. His singing on the album is just strange. Like at some point he started, basically writing the lyrics for many of the songs, and there's some really weird shit in there. Like apparently it's pretty well known that he was kind of like a little bit of a pedophile. So you've got a lot of songs about like, little girl, I like you, or something like that. It's like, nah, I don't want that. It's just overall just a strange thing. So let's talk about the album. The album opens with a song I actually really liked, and when I started I was like, well, actually, if the album is like that, that could be really nice. It's, I think, like Shifting Sands. I mean, it's a bit, none of the songs on the album are gonna be like, oh my god, what a revelation, it's really an amazing song, and this album is really a masterpiece. No, it's not that. But, it got interesting things. So Shifting Sands is like, a basic, like, it's what you'd expect from a psychedelic band from the 60s, Like there's a first guitar, that there's a little like riff on guitar that's like, no, and it's like very repetitive, and it's nice. It's a basic song, but it's nice, which is then followed by the song I talked about, which is I Won't Hurt You. This one, on the other hand, is just really interesting. I actually genuinely think it's a great song. I mean, the chord progression itself is, it's just a few chords. There's nothing very complex on this album, but it's the instrumentation on it, which is genuinely really interesting. It's just two instruments, or three, depends, but yeah. And it's just a kick drum, which I'm not even sure that's a real kick drum. I'm pretty sure they just actually used a sample of a heart for the whole song. That's the rhythm. It goes boom 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 like this. So I'm not even sure they use an actual kick drum. I'm pretty sure they just use a heart sample, which is even cooler. And then there's one guitar that stays through the entire song, which like has the bass cranked up all the way on the amp. So basically it sounds like both a guitar and a bass. At least I'm fairly certain that it's a guitar, because just for your information, I play guitar, and I whenever I try getting the tones they get from a bass, I can't get them. But when I just do as I described, just take the guitar, crank the bass up, and remove all the treble, it sounds exactly like it. So I'm pretty sure. Plus, you can hear at some points in this guitar part, in this bass part, sorry, a few like little strums of the rest of the strings. So I'm fairly certain it's a guitar with the bass doing this. I like this little movement. So that's the song. Then those two first songs, they're very interesting. It's good opening. I was fairly like confident. Then it starts getting either weird or boring, because that's all the songs are. They're either just strange and incomprehensible, or they're just like standard issue like 60s pop. for example, there's one song that's called Layla, which is not the Eric Clapton single, which confused me as well. It means that there are officially 2 songs called Layla now in existence. That's absolutely insane. I don't know why I found that insane, but whatever. And that song, like it starts like a regular, like song from the 60s, like it's like la 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 la. I shouldn't try to sing. But then there's the Bob Marley intervention. That's a good title. The Bob Marley intervention, where he just starts talking like weird shit on top of it, and it's like weird. It feels like bad psychedelia. For anybody who knows a bit about 60s psychedelic music, like I do, of course, knows that like you've got interesting psychedelic music, like stuff that like early Pink Floyd did, where it's like experimental, but you can see where they're trying to take it. With this album, it just feels like they're just trying shit out and doing whatever they just suddenly think about, and it's like it doesn't work like that. Plus, it's clear that like originally they weren't a psychedelic band. From what I heard, like some of the band members after this first album just left because they were like, we're not a fucking psychedelic band, we're like a pop group. And it's like you get just pop songs with weird added bits of like psychedelic music. It sounds weird. It doesn't sound like a whole unit that you want to listen to, right? And the rest of the songs, they're just, as I just said, like pop songs. Some of them are really good. Like I think there's a song called Transparent Day that I really like. It's kind of, it's catchy. It feels like kind of sounds like the Byrds, if you know the band. They're kind of a 60s sort of like, they were a classic band, kind of popular in that time. And it's clear that it's kind of their inspiration, and it sounds like that. It's got some nice harmonies. The song itself is pretty well wrote, and the production is good. That actually leads me on my next point, which is the production of this album. It's awful. Like the mixing and all, it's just terrible. Like honestly, there are some songs where it's like almost, I'd say, difficult to listen to. First off, it suffers from the classic issue that most like 60s albums suffer from, which is bad stereo. They just don't. Okay, so at that time, the stereo sound was like the new thing, and they just didn't know how to use it. So basically, what they did on this album is literally, there is a track that I don't know which one it is. I think like If You Want This Love or something like that. It was a classic pop song, but they basically put like on the right side one guitar, the lead guitar. They just put it on the right side. In the middle, they put the guy's voice, and on the left, they put literally every instrument. And keep in mind, this is like a big band, so what we have on the left is like the drums, the bass, the rhythm guitar, everything is on that that left side, and it just feels so weird, and it's like really bad, and as I said, like kind of hard to listen to. Like honestly, like you can only hear whenever you keep only your right ear, you're like, that's an interesting lead guitar, but like, and then you just keep your left ear and you're like, oh, that's where the rest of the band was hiding. It's just a disaster. Actually, I think I should mention still, something positive about the album is that whoever the guitar player is surprisingly good. I say surprisingly because with most of these bands, none of the members were like virtuosos. Fuck. none of them were really that good. But usually they just kind of like do strumming, play some bad blues, bad blues guitars. So but he sort of had an interesting sort of like, it's a mix between blues, folk guitar, the finger picking, and it's generally pretty good. Like I know there's like the last song on the album, I don't remember it, but whatever. It's an instrumental out of all things, and that's again a weird thing. It just becomes a folk song. Like we for the rest of the album we had just rock songs, some psychedelic songs, some pop songs, but it's still all in the same kind of realm. There was some uniformity, but then that last song, it's just, you just get a guy finger picking, you get an acoustic guitar, and that's it. And it's like, what is this doing here? And that's sort of like the overall feeling for this album. It's like, what is anything doing in this album? I'm gonna come back to Layla. As I said, he just starts talking, but at one point, also for some reason, the song like itself starts fading out. So it gets quieter, and on top of it, they just add an acoustic guitar that's playing a different song. And it's like, what are you doing? What's the point of this? Why is everything insane in this album? This album is just crazy. Like, and it's weird because, like, I was talking about, the early years of Pink Floyd. Like, for example, the Piper. If you know this album, it's The Piper Waits at the Gates of Dawn, I think, the full title. Anyways, it's weird, but at least it's like consistently weird. Like from beginning to end, it's just insane, and you don't understand anything. And it's great. I really love this album actually, but like what I like is that it's consistent. Like you listen to it and you're not like, that's a bunch of songs put together. This album, there's just like bits of things everywhere. Some people might find it, interesting, because it's like, well, I'm not gonna make a voice, but it's like, oh look, it's very varied. You can listen to a lot of things, but I mean, yes, it's varied, but it's not, that doesn't make it good. Just because there's a bunch of things going on in it. Like I made an album where nothing is logical, and it's the worst album ever. Go listen to MR.SPAM, What Am I Doing With My Life? That's my debut album. But it's comparing it. It's just as weird and doesn't make sense, and I'm not proud of it. I mean, I'm not like ashamed of it, but I just don't really care about it. It's like a stupid joke. And the way that I did it is that I recorded bits of songs throughout the last year and just put them together and released them on an album. And this album just feels like they did the same. It just feels like they recorded a bunch of songs and just put them together. Like I was talking about Transparent Day, and if you just listen to this song and I Won't Hurt You side by side, it just feels like they were recorded either at like different years, or different studios and different, like, even in the production it feels like, usually when you've got an album, even if it's very varied. I'm gonna, for example, talk about the Beatles' The White Album. It's very varied. There's a bunch of different kind of songs, and the production, there's all sort of things going on. But at least when you listen to it, you're like, okay, this was recorded as the same studio. They've got the same sort of like recurring little techniques when it comes to like miking the piano, miking the guitar. You still get some recurring tones. With part one, it's just everything seems to change. The balance seems to change from song to song. It's like they mic everything differently on every song. It doesn't make sense, and I'm confused by it. So yes, what would I rate the West Coast Pop Art Experimental Bands Part 1? it's weird. If you're really into like 60s psychedelic music, I can maybe recommend it for for a few of the songs that are interesting. But overall, I don't think I could really recommend it. Like, I can recommend like listening to a few of the songs, like as I said, Transparent Day, the opening, Shifting Sands, I Won't Hurt You, and there was also an interesting, like, somehow a cover of a Frank Zappa song. I don't Help I'm a Rock. There, that's the name. Oops. So I could recommend listening to a few songs, but there's a lot of like pointless songs that you don't need to listen to. So skip those if you want to listen to the album. And I'll give this album how does Anthony Fantano do it again? Like a solid 6? A solid 6. There you go. Solid. A light 6? I don't know. A 6. It's Beh. So yeah. I guess I'll take a tiny little break and I'll see you right after. Alright, see ya. And I'm back. I took a little break. So, you can already see this beautiful image that I put, so you already know what disaster I'm gonna talk about next. Yesterday night, with my good friend Zofika, we decided that we would watch the 2019 movie Cats. And this was a this was a mistake, because honestly, I think it's probably one of the worst movies I've seen in a very long time. So I don't know where to start with this. I guess I'll start with the beginning. What our reaction? I think I never had a quicker laugh in my life, like at a movie. Like, this movie just used, like, in the first minute I was already on the ground, dead from laughing, crying, laughing emoji. What the fuck? But because, like, I don't know how to describe it, but like the first song starts with like trumpet synths, and it's like honestly the worst synth I ever heard. Like, I'll be okay. I'm gonna do some little illegal things. I did download this movie not very legally, and originally I just thought, oh, there's just something wrong with my copy of the film, It's like, I was like, oh, they just, they put like this weird music just in, in case, just to prevent, like copyright issues or something like that. And I was just ready to go download something else. But then Zofika told me like, well, I've got the same problem. And it's like, oh no. It's just, this bad MIDI music is just like embedded in the film. That's just what they did. How did they think it was okay? I think I could like talk about like for an hour about just the instrumentation on this album, in this movie. It's awful. Like, honestly, we both just, I think that's what made us laugh the most in this movie, was how bad the orchestration and everything was in this film. It's just unlistenable. Like, when it's not, the synth trumpets that sound like a MIDI, like a bad 90s MIDI, sometimes it's just an orchestra that doesn't know what the fuck it's doing. Like, a lot of points you just had like the guy with the tuba doing like this, and it's like, why are you doing this? And sometimes you get some really like bad funk. Like, I heard from what Zofika told me, one of the singers in the film, one of the characters is played by an actual singer. And by the way, don't try to ask me who it is or what character it was, because I didn't get anything about the plot in this movie. I was completely lost. But apparently he's a famous singer, and I didn't know. And of course they decided to give him like a funk disco music behind him, and it sounds bad. It's like, oh my god, it's like if you gave if you wanted an alien to know what disco was, you just give them that, and it's like, oh, that's like the most bare bones idea of disco. I I don't want like to completely destroy the thing, but like I genuinely kind of like want to see how the original musical was, because if you didn't know, the movie is based on the musical Cats, which I know was like really popular at one point. Like I know it was like the cliche of like, oh yeah, I'm going to see Cats, and it's like the most famous. It's become like one of the most famous Broadway musicals of all time. I think it's honestly one of the highest grossing Broadway musicals, whatever. And it's like, I want to hear it to see if like the disasters come from, the movie, if they just didn't know what the fuck they were doing, or whether the original Broadway musical was really just that bad. And in case I just feel really bad. Like it's they clearly tried to have some comedic moments as well, which is also something I wanna know about the Broadway musical. Like, did it have like did it have James Corden? Was James Corden in it? This precious piece of shit that in my hand right now. Yes, James Corden. Oh yes. And I don't know, I'm going insane. I didn't sleep last night because of Cats. And like, did it have like the James Corden moments? He just tries to give jokes. Like, he just tries so hard and it just fails every time. And it's like, oh my god, how can you make something unfunny? Like, it's negative funny. It takes laughter from me. Like, it didn't make me laugh. It just made me sad. It just made me depressed. I wanted to die. I've never wanted to die as much as I did until I watched this film. This film made me lose my will to live. That's I think that's a good like little summary of the film. You won't want to live after watching it. You're gonna want to stab your eyes like. Oh my god, it's bad. Honestly, I'm sort of like struggling today to like talk about things, but like I think it's mostly because of this movie, because I'm still very fresh on it. But at the same time, there's so many things I want to talk about, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to, like, I don't want to bring these memories back up. These memories from yesterday night of like seeing like there's terrifying. I mean, everybody's talked about the terrifying CGI. The fake weird cats. Everybody's talked about it. But it's like, even though everybody has like shown how weird it was, it didn't make it better. Like actually watching it, their entire bodies like are malformed. They look like shit, and I still don't understand. I guess they use like those full body suits for the CGI to, because for most of the actors from what I looked up are like actual dancers. The dancing was okay in the film, even though like it didn't make sense on like why it was there, because in the musical I would assume like most of the characters dance all the time, and you can see their dancing because it's not heavily edited, right? But in this movie they just like they dance like I think really dance like 3 times, or at least what I actually saw as being dancing. Like there was one time in the graveyard, one time in the hall, and it was like, okay, that's fairly decent dancing, but it's still overly edited. Like one of my favorite musicals in film is West Side Story. Now it's again a media recommendation from MR.SPAM. You should watch this film. But one of the reasons the dancing works in this film is that whenever first off, the characters move normally outside of the dance sequence, right? They move completely normally. In Cats, they always move like cats, and it just doesn't feel normal, and it feels like they're semi-dancing all the time, but not really dancing. It's just weird. In West Side Story, they just they walk around, no questions asked, normal, and then whenever they start dancing, the camera doesn't move. That's normal. Oh my god, my belly is making fucking noises. I'm sorry. Yeah, the camera stays static. For example, the very famous scene in West Side Story is the one where they're singing America on the rooftops. And it's honestly one of the best, like, song and dance, scenes in cinema history. It's beautiful. The music is gorgeous, but I'm not necessarily here to talk about this. But, like, there's, like, only, like, about 3 or 4 camera angles throughout the scene, right? It doesn't move. And that's great, because you can just see the dancing. In Cats, whenever they're dancing, they keep, like, jumping from one character to another. It's like, what's going on? What are you doing? It's, I guess I should maybe talk about the songs. Okay, as I said, the instrumentation, the arrangements were, what the fuck am I saying? No, they were terrible. I don't know what I was gonna say they were okay. No, the songs are okay, but the arrangements are fucking bad. Just bad. I'm not even gonna hyperbolize it. No. But yeah, the songs, I didn't mind them. Then again, like, I don't know, that can't really be a defense for, like, the film, because that's, like, they were written by I think it's, like, Andrew Lloyd Webber or something like that. So, of course, yeah, the original songs are pretty good, because the guy is, like, a songwriter and, stuff like that. And, I trust him with making good songs. But then the film just keeps... Apparently there's one original song in it, which I don't know which one it is, but there's an original song, apparently. So, maybe, I really don't know which one it is. Maybe it's the one that was a bit funky, I don't know. But yeah, at least that's musically speaking. I think the songs, musically speaking, are interesting. Lyrically, that's a bit more debatable. I think what really annoyed me was that, like, often the lyrics were just very descriptive, right? So for your information, every song basically is just a song about, like, the cat we're seeing now. Like, they keep introducing characters, and each character just has a song. And every time they introduce a character, they just sing it, and spoiler alert, right afterward they get, like, teleported by the main guy, by the main person of the film. So it's like, every time they just introduce a character, they sing their song, and then the character doesn't exist anymore. It's like every time the same thing, and it's like, it gets really tiring after a while, because every time you're just waiting for, like, oh, here's a new character, I can't wait for him to be, disintegrated. It hurts me, it pained me. And of course, and as I said, the lyrics, yeah, they're just like, well, here's this character. Like, I remember there was one song, which was actually a pretty good song itself, musically, but the lyrics, man, oh my god. It was for the cat that was the railway cat. I forgot his freaking name. And, like, the lyric, one of the lyrics, it really, it's stuck in my mind. It was, he's the railway cat, the cat of the railway. Do you realize how pathetic this lyric is? It's like, oh yeah, well, I'm Mr. Spam, the spam mister. It's like, they just clearly just don't know what the fuck to write, and they're like, well, we're just gonna, repeat the same thing over and over. Another song that really, like, I think it sort of, like, lost us with Zofika was the song about, like, the simp cat. I forgot his name. He was like, it's Mistopheles. They all have absolutely terrible names. But that Mistopheles is like a magic cat. And they just sing a song, and it's like, it never ends. It's like, the chorus is like, I have never seen a cat as magical as Mr. Mistopheles thing. And it's like, they repeat that same phrase, like, 15 times, and every time we were, like, dying every time they added it. And it's like, oh my god, it was really bad. And like every time it's like, okay, I'm gonna talk a bit about music like structure. I think to build a nice, repetitive, song, you shouldn't end, the phrase by like, the home chord. For example, one of the best, let's take one of the best, repetitive songs of all time, which is "Hey Jude" by the Beatles. I'm talking a lot about the Beatles today. The whole na 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 thing. When it ends, the last note it ends on isn't like the home chord. It's not like, it doesn't feel like the phrase is ended. So it feels like it wants to go to, the repeat of the na na na. Na 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 na, and that na is not like, you feel like you really want to go back to na, right? And I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but whatever. I'm not a fucking music theorist. Go talk to Adam Neely for that. And in Cats, every phase ends with like the ending note. I don't know again if that's clear. And it's like so bad. Like there was the song for the good woman, the old woman, the one who played M in James Bond for some reason. And her songs, every fucking 2 seconds, like it feels like the ending chord. Like it feels like it's over every time. It's horrible. I was really fucking depressed by it. Like every time, I think every song you were hoping that it was over, but like you were like, oh no, there's still, the song is still not over. They're still gonna repeat the same phrase again. I think that was sort of like the overall, sort of atmosphere for the film. I honestly looked at, the how much time was left every like 2 minutes. And every time I was like, holy shit, there's still like an hour left of this. Like after the 10 first minutes, I remember we were both fucking confused, Zofika and I. First off, because they used this word throughout the film, which is the word jollicle. What the fuck does jollicle mean? I'm going insane. They keep repeating the word jollicle, and I looked at like, as you can see, I'm not English, so I looked at Google Translate to see what the fuck does jollicle mean. I'm going angry now. But it doesn't mean anything. It means jelly whenever we translate in Google Translate. Jelly. What is the fuck? What's a jelly cat? I'm gonna fucking, oh my god, I'm gonna murder the whoever directed this. And I guess that's not even a problem in the movie. That's just a problem with the original musical. What is a jollicle cat? They keep repeating it. It's like, oh, what is a jollicle cat? Fuck! I'm going insane. Ah! So yes, jollicle cat. And this drove us insane because the first 10 minutes, they just say that. They just say, oh, we are jollicle cats. And I guess that's just a name, but they don't explain what it is. They just are this. They just are jelly cats. Like, why? Why? Oh my god, I'm gonna have a heart attack thinking about this garbage. And every name they come up with. Like there was one of the characters which was called Mungo Jerry, and all I could think about was how Mungo Jerry is a real person who wrote In the Summertime. So it was just like, in the summertime when the weather you can say and I was I was just thinking about this, and like during all the film I was just like, I kept thinking of other things I'd rather do. Like when there was Mungo Jerry, it was like, I'd rather listen to that little piece of music. And like we talked about another film during the film, which was Tricky Brains, which I'm definitely gonna talk about in a later episode. And like we kept just thinking, well, I'd rather watch another film than watching Cats. Like it's not a film where you actually are in it. You just you just spend like the full hour and 40 minutes just going like, well, I just wish I was watching something else. I just want to be watching something else. I don't want to be watching Cats the movie, with starring fat James Corden. It's a disaster. A disaster. I'm gonna quote Zofik on this. She said, this film is a shame on the human race. So, I have to agree. It's a shame. I hope I can. I'm gonna do something kind of weird, and I hope nobody's gonna be crazy about it. But I'm gonna rate this movie a negative 10 out of 10. So it's like, do I recommend it? I'd recommend you not watch it. Like I'm gonna do an anti-recommendation. Like even if you think, oh, I'm gonna watch it, for the joke of it. Don't. Just don't. Stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about, downloading it and watching it, with your family. Don't fucking watch it. Like, you've got so many better things to do in 1 hour and 40 minutes. I recommend watching, like, The Room 10 times rather than fucking watching Cats. Listen to, like, some music. I don't know. Do fucking something with life instead of watching fucking Cats. Instead of watching Cats doing like jollical fuck. Don't watch this film. Just avoid it like it's the plague. Like, don't. It's terrifying. The music is bad. The lyrics are bad. Every actor is bad. They hired, Hollywood actors for the most part, and none of them can sing. Like, James Corden couldn't sing. There was one guy on the boat who we didn't even understand that it was a song because he didn't sing in pitch. So we're like, oh, he's just talking. But then we noticed that there was like some similarity with like the way that it was singing and the music that was in the background. We're like, oh fuck, that's a song. It's bad. It's ungodly. Yeah, even for the joke, don't watch it. It's just a waste of your time. So, rate it like minus 1,000,000 points, and whoever worked on this just deserves to die. Alright, I'm gonna take a break because my brain is about to explode because of this. See ya. I'm back again for the third part, and finally the last part of this episode 3 of the podcast. I'm pretty sure it's episode 3. It's early, so I probably should be easy to count. Yeah, okay, it's episode 3. So as is usual with the Spamcast, we're kind of like switching. We're doing a big left turn to talk about. We went from talking about cats to talking about famous history. So I watched this third piece of media that I watched is the movie JFK by Oliver Stone. So I guess I'm gonna really go from talking about jollical fucking cats to famous presidential assassination. Are you ready? So I'm gonna say I've always been a big fan of history. I'm always really a big fan of history, and I love historical movies. In the first episode I talked about Gandhi, and even though I said it was a bit of a bad movie, which it wasn't a bad movie, but a bit of a boring movie. It still interested me because I like history. I always like watching movies about history. I don't like reading, so I don't read about history, but whatever. And so seeing that it's a movie about JFK and the whole conspiracy theory. It's gonna be interesting. Plus Oliver Stone is actually pretty good director, so logically it should work. And I really liked it. A lot of the points that I talked about, for example, if you remember about my Gandhi, movie review, I did mention how it was bad because it was mediocre because they didn't focus on one thing. And here, what's interesting with this movie with JFK is like they did manage to at least focus on like one character, one guy who decided to make an investigation, right? So it does feel like a real story. It doesn't just feel like like events are just going one after another, right? And that's something I really like. I just wish more historical movies were built like this. I think I should mention that the Cats review just took everything out of me. So I'm a bit tired now. But whatever. I'm gonna talk about JFK. So the whole movie sort of like focuses on this like judge who decides that he wants to investigate the JFK assassination because he believes there was a conspiracy to kill the president, right? So that's, first off, I think that's an interesting subject to tackle, simply because it's like, from what I looked up afterwards, apparently like the vast majority of like Americans believe in the fact that it's a conspiracy. Like that's kind of crazy to me. It's like the FBI and everything, they just maintain that it's like, oh no, it's just the one guy who shot the president, the Lee Harvey Oswald is the only guy. But like almost the entirety of like the American population thinks no, it's multiple people killed him. And it's like, it's crazy to me, like how, I don't want to get too much into like politics and conspiracy theories, because as much as I love reading about conspiracy theories, there's not a lot of them that I actually believe. Like, I'll be honest, I like I enjoy reading like, for example, the people who say the moon landing was faked. I just enjoy seeing what kind of points can they give and sort of stuff like that. But I don't fucking believe it. Like I'm like, yeah, okay, you're saying things, okay, that's interesting, that's some interesting points. You're still full of shit. And I think with this movie, I think it was interesting because they didn't show the character of the judge, who's played by Kevin Costner, as being too much like the right person, right? Because at some points you feel like, oh yeah, he's clearly going a bit nutty up here. Like when at some points he starts saying, oh yeah, the JFK, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, all of them, all connected their murders. And it's like, okay, he's clearly going maybe a bit insane, right? It's clear that it's like, clearly, like, the character isn't just shown as like this almighty god of truth, right? He's going a bit insane. But at the same time, from what I heard, Oliver Stone just was really in accordance with what the real judge thought. So it wasn't just a biographical film, it was also a film for Oliver Stone to like put forward his beliefs on the JFK assassination, right? So I don't know. I think even though I find it very interesting to see all the theory, I don't like give it too much credence, right? To what they say in this movie. So I don't know if that's clear. I'm sorry. What was I talking about? I'm fucking lost. This podcast, I'm just gonna take a break because a break from talking about JFK, because like I'm genuinely tired, and there's a lot of things to talk about concerning this this movie. It's like a 3-hour fucking movie. It felt a bit long. It did feel a bit long. But I think if you're interested in history, you're gonna enjoy it. I think like the thing is, like, it's clear that they don't give actual, like, factual evidence. From what I've heard, the correct term is I forgot the correct term. It's just coincidental evidence or something like that, because just somebody happened to be at that place at a certain time, so they're just, a suspect. And that's kind of like how the investigation works with this guy, right? And it's kind of a problem, I think, in the sense that, if you don't know anything about, the justice system and how, actually having evidence works, you're gonna be like, okay, sure, that's some pretty convincing evidence right there. That's pretty convincing. But for me, who's kind of, as I said in the last episode, kind of always fascinated about, murders and shit, you know that you can't just say, well, look, this person was, right there in the, while the president was going, like, he's probably guilty. It's like the whole, story about the umbrella man. He's not in this photo, sadly, I think, but I can try to find him if you want. Hold on. Is he in this photo? Wait a minute, Nah, he's not in the photo, right? Nah, there's no umbrella man. But it's the same thing. It's just a guy who was there at the during the day of the assassination, and he was just really weird because he had an umbrella, right, when it was a sunny day, whatever, and everybody was like, oh, he's the sign for the, for whenever the president passes in front, he's gonna be like the target. And it's like, when you actually read why he had an umbrella, it's like, oh, well, I just, want to talk about the British government in it. And it was like, oh, you're not actually guilty of, like, conspiracy. And it's like, oh, well, we just invented life. And it's like really difficult, I think, to sort of like differentiate what we want to believe versus like what's actually, factual evidence, what's actually like clearly evidence. Like, talking about the moon landing conspiracy again. A lot of people, whenever they give evidence, I'm armed and dangerous. If you can see, I've got a knife. Whenever people give evidence, it's more like they go first with the intention that, oh, well, the moon landing was faked, right? And so they're gonna build evidence from that assumption, and that's just not the right way to do an investigation. I think that's sort of like the problem with the investigation on JFK. It's like, well, we are gonna assume that it's a conspiracy theory. I'm getting a bit critical of the film, but I feel like it's important to not be too just one-sided on and say it's a good film, but whatever. And I think the character of the judge sort of went with the assumption that oh my god, this cop has an amazing face. Look at him. Look at this shit. Oh my, hey kid. Well, I'm gonna stay on this. Oh my god, she's looking at the camera. She didn't understand, you're not supposed to look at the camera. Look at this guy. Look at her. They're looking at the fucking camera. Whatever. Can I just stop talking about this? I'm getting tired. I should have slept. This episode is gonna be the worst episode. I'm just gonna say that cats killed the President Kennedy, right? They did it because they listened to the 1967 album Part 1. They listened to it and they went insane, and they decided that they wanted to shoot President Kennedy. She's guilty. The girl, like in the front, she's guilty. Her kid is guilty. Everybody's guilty. You're guilty. You're guilty. You're guilty. You're guilty. Everybody is fucking guilty. Especially this guy. He's fucking guilty. I mean, he's the worst fucking offender, right? He killed President Kennedy. He killed him. Ah!